My name is Kennedy, and at 32 years old, I never expected to be banned from my own family Thanksgiving. I built my career as a financial advisor in Boston, always sending money home despite my mother Diane constantly favoring my brother James. When I received that text message, "You're banned from Thanksgiving." Idiot. Something inside me finally broke. For years, I'd paid their mortgage, utilities, even James failed businesses. That day, I decided enough was enough. If you've ever felt excluded by family who still expected your support, hit subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My story might just give you the courage to stand up for yourself, too. Growing up in suburban Chicago was beautiful on the outside, but painful behind closed doors. Our two-story colonial house with the perfect green lawn hid the dysfunction brewing inside. My mother, Diane, ruled our home with criticism and control, while my father Tom retreated into his newspaper or workshop whenever conflict arose. From my earliest memories, it was clear that my brother James held a special place in my mother's heart that I could never access. When James broke the living room window playing baseball at age 10, Mom laughed it off as boys being boys. When I accidentally spilled juice on the carpet at age 8, I was grounded for a week and called careless and thoughtless. This pattern continued through our teenage years. James could come home past curfew smelling like beer, and Mom would simply say, "Thanks for coming home safe, honey." Meanwhile, if I was 5 minutes late from study group, I'd face an interrogation about my whereabouts and lectures about responsibility. Despite this imbalance, I poured myself into academics, determined to build a future on my own terms. While James partied through high school with a mediocre GPA, I maintained a 4.0 and participated in every extracurricular that might strengthen my college applications. College marked our paths diverging even further. I earned a partial scholarship to Northwestern and worked 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore and as a tutor to cover the rest. Mom never called to check on me despite my father occasionally sneaking in supportive texts. James, meanwhile, failed out of community college after 2 semesters. Mom defended him, saying college just isn't for everyone, and pressured Dad to fund James' first business idea, a sports memorabilia shop that closed within 6 months. I graduated with honors, landed an entry-level position at a financial firm in Boston, and worked my way up methodically. By 27, I was a certified financial advisor with a growing client list and a comfortable salary. James cycled through jobs living in our parents' basement. Between his various entrepreneurial failures, from a lawn care service to a house painting business to an ill-conceived food truck venture, each failure was met not with accountability, but with Mom saying, "At least he's trying. He has vision." The financial imbalance became apparent when Dad suffered his first heart attack 8 years ago. Mom called me in hysterics. Not just about Dad's health, but about medical bills and their second mortgage. Without hesitation, I stepped in, paying for Dad's treatments, not covered by their inadequate insurance, and helping with their mortgage payments. What started as temporary assistance became a permanent arrangement. Over the years, I took over their entire financial life, paying the remaining $300,000 on their mortgage, monthly utility bills averaging $400, their property taxes of $8,000 annually, health insurance premiums of $600 monthly after Dad's heart attack, raised their rates, car payments for both Mom and Dad, totaling $900 monthly, and most egregiously, over $50,000 in failed business loans for James over 5 years. I managed all these payments directly through my accounts, setting up automatic transfers that gave me a sense of security, knowing my Parents would always have a roof over their heads and healthcare when needed. Despite this substantial financial support, Mom's criticism never ceased. My apartment in Boston was too small for someone with my income. My wardrobe wasn't professional enough for my position. My perpetually single status at 32 was concerning. And maybe I should lower my standards. Each visit home was a minefield of subtle and not so subtle criticisms, while James was praised for the smallest accomplishments. Last Christmas, Mom spent dinner praising James for holding the same bartending job for 6 whole months as if it were equivalent to my recent promotion. When I mentioned my promotion, Mom quickly changed the subject to James's new girlfriend, speculating excitedly about potential grandchildren. Through it all, Dad remained passive, occasionally giving me sympathetic glances or a supportive squeeze on the shoulder when Mom wasn't looking. In private moments, he'd thank me for my help, but never stood up to Mom's blatant favoritism or acknowledged the financial burden I carried for the family. Despite everything I maintained hope that things could change. Each holiday, each birthday, each family gathering, I arrived with optimism that maybe this time Mom would see me, really see me, and appreciate me, not just for what I provided, but for who I was. This Thanksgiving was supposed to be no different. I had already purchased my plane ticket from Boston to Chicago 2 months in advance. I had arranged time off work, scheduled a hair appointment to look nice for family photos, and even ordered Mom's favorite pumpkin cheesecake from a specialty bakery to be delivered Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I genuinely believed that maybe this holiday would finally bring the family warmth and appreciation I'd been seeking my entire life. The Monday before Thanksgiving started like any other day. I woke at 5:30 for my morning run through Boston Common, showered, and prepared for a day of client meetings. I had already packed my suitcase for the Wednesday flight to Chicago, including carefully wrapped gifts for everyone. Even James. The weather forecast promised a perfect crisp autumn weekend. And I felt that familiar hope rise in my chest that maybe this Thanksgiving would be different. At 10:45, between client appointments, my phone buzzed with a text message. Seeing Mom's name on the screen, I assumed she was confirming my arrival time or asking me to pick up last-minute ingredients. Instead, what I read stopped my heart for a moment. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot. Don't bother coming." I stared at the screen, sure I'd misunderstood. My hands trembled as I immediately called her, but the call went straight to voicemail after a single ring. She had declined it. I tried again with the same result. My third call wasn't even connected. I texted back, "Mom, what's going on? Is this a joke?" 20 agonizing minutes later, her reply appeared. "We want a peaceful holiday without your judgmental attitude. Just stay in Boston." Judgmental? The accusation stung, particularly because I'd spent years biting my tongue, never criticizing James' failures or their financial dependence. I had been nothing but supportive, despite the constant emotional slights. In a daze, I excused myself from the office, telling my assistant I wasn't feeling well. In the privacy of my car in the parking garage, I scrolled through social media where the truth revealed itself in pieces. My cousin Taylor had posted about her excitement for the big family Thanksgiving at Aunt Diane and Uncle Tom's, tagging various extended family members. Comments from aunts, uncles, and cousins confirmed that everyone except me was invited to what was being called the biggest family gathering in years. With shaking hands, I called my father, who answered on the 4th ring. His voice was uncharacteristically quiet. "Kennedy. I'm sorry about your mother's text. She shouldn't have said it like that. So, it's true. I'm really uninvited from Thanksgiving? I asked, my voice breaking. A heavy sigh came through the line. Your mother thinks it would be better this year. You know how she gets when she makes up her mind. In the background, I heard laughter and then distinctly my brother's voice calling out something unintelligible, followed by my mother's response. Tell her to just stay in Boston with her money. We don't need her attitude. More laughter followed and Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Kennedy, maybe next year would be better. You know how stressful holidays can be for your mother. I sat in shocked silence as tears began streaming down my face. Dad, I've paid your mortgage for 5 years. I pay all your bills. I funded James' businesses and now I'm banned from Thanksgiving. There was a long pause. His voice dropped to a whisper. I know, honey. I know. I'll talk to her, but you know how she is once she decides something. The call ended shortly after with nothing resolved. I sat in my car for almost an hour crying until no more tears would come. The betrayal cut deep. Not just from my mother, but from my father, who couldn't or wouldn't stand up for me despite everything I'd done. When I finally drove home, I felt hollow inside. My apartment, usually a sanctuary of peace, felt empty and cold. On the entry table sat the wrapped gifts I'd purchased for everyone, including a vintage brooch I'd found at an antique shop that reminded me of one my grandmother had worn, which I thought might finally earn a genuine smile from my mother. I called my best friend Natalie, the words tumbling out between sobs as I explained what had happened. Your mother did what? She exclaimed. That's beyond unacceptable, Kennedy. That's straight-up emotional abuse, especially given everything you do for them. Her righteous anger on my behalf was like a warm blanket around my shoulders. You're coming here for Thanksgiving, she declared. Not a question, but a statement. My roommates and I are doing a Friendsgiving, and you're now officially invited. No. You're required to come. I won't take no for an answer. I accepted her invitation with gratitude, but after the call, the apartment walls seemed to close in around me. I took a sleeping pill that night, desperate for escape from the thoughts swirling in my mind, but sleep was fitful at best. I kept waking up, checking my phone to see if Mom or Dad had texted to say it was all a misunderstanding, but there was nothing. The cruelty of the situation became clearer as the night progressed. Not only was I excluded from a family gathering I financially supported, but no one except Dad had even bothered to acknowledge my feelings about it. Decades of giving, supporting, and seeking approval had led to this being called an idiot and told not to come home while everyone, including extended family, I rarely saw gathered without me. By morning, my sadness had hardened into something else, a resolve I hadn't felt before. The clarity that came with daybreak was painful, but necessary. This pattern wasn't new, only more blatant than before. Nothing I did would ever be enough for my mother. No amount of financial support would make her love me equally to James. No achievement would earn me a place of respect in her eyes. Tuesday morning dawned with a clarity I hadn't experienced before. As sunlight streamed through my bedroom windows, illuminating dust particles dancing in the air, I sat cross-legged on my bed with a cup of coffee. My financial record spread around me and confronted a harsh truth. I had been enabling a deeply dysfunctional family system for years. The realization wasn't entirely new. My therapist Andrea had gently suggested as much during our sessions over the past 2 years. We have to examine whether your financial support is truly helping your family or just maintaining unhealthy dynamics, she had said more than once. But I'd always defended my actions. They're my family. I can't just let them struggle when I have the means to help. Now, with the sting of rejection still fresh, Andrea's words returned with new significance. Perhaps my willingness to continuously support them regardless of how they treated me had created a situation where they felt entitled to my money, but not obligated to treat me with basic respect. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my banking app, looking at the automatic payments scheduled for the coming month. $3,200 for their mortgage payment due on the 1 St. $450 for utilities spread across several payments. $600 for health insurance premiums. $900 for their car payments. $300 for their cable and internet bundle. Various credit card minimum payments totaling nearly $1,000. In total, nearly $6,000 monthly, not including occasional extras when James needed money or unexpected expenses arose. That was over $70,000 annually that I worked hard to earn, only to be called an idiot and banned from the family gathering I was financing. I thought about my grandmother, my father's mother, who had shown me unconditional love before she passed when I was 16. She had been the one person in the family who seemed to see me clearly and love me just as I was. "You have a strong spirit, Kennedy," she once told me. "Don't let anyone dim your light, not even family. Sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest." With trembling fingers but resolute heart, I began systematically canceling each automatic payment. First, the mortgage payment scheduled for December. First, cancel the electricity bill due next week. Cancel water and gas utilities. Cancel phone service for 4 lines including James's. Cancel cable and internet bundle. Cancel car payments for both vehicles. Cancel health insurance premiums. Cancel various credit card payments. All canceled. With each cancellation, I felt a mixture of guilt and liberation. This wasn't about revenge, I told myself. This was about boundaries, about no longer allowing myself to be used financially while being rejected emotionally. If I wasn't family enough to be included in Thanksgiving, then I wasn't family enough to carry their financial burdens. After each payment was canceled, I documented everything carefully, taking screenshots of confirmation numbers and saving them in a dedicated folder. If confronted later, I wanted clear evidence that I had made these changes deliberately and systematically, not on emotional impulse. Then came the hardest part. After staring at my phone for nearly 10 minutes, gathering courage, I finally composed a text to my father. "Dad, I've thought carefully about Mom's decision to ban me from Thanksgiving. While it hurts deeply, I respect her right to decide who she wants in her home. In light of this clear message that I'm not considered an essential part of the family, I've made a difficult decision of my own. Effective immediately, I will no longer be managing or paying any family expenses. You'll need to handle your own mortgage, utilities, car payments, insurance, and other bills going forward. I've already canceled all automatic payments from my accounts. This isn't done out of spite, but out of self-respect. I can no longer financially support a family that doesn't emotionally support me. I'm sorry it's come to this, but I need to prioritize my own well-being now." I hit send before I could second-guess this myself, then immediately turned off my phone completely. The thought of their immediate reactions was too much to bear in that moment. I needed space to process my own feelings without their influence. The apartment felt strangely quiet with my phone off. For years, I'd been constantly accessible to my family, responding to their financial emergencies and emotional demands at all hours. This silence was foreign, but not unwelcome. I ran a bath with lavender essential oil, something I rarely had time to do, and soaked until the water cooled. Then I ordered takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion, and watched old episodes of Parks and Recreation, allowing myself to laugh for what felt like the first time in days. As I prepared for bed that night, I felt lighter somehow. The hurt remained a dull ache in my chest, but alongside it grew a small, tender feeling of self-respect. For the first time in my adult life, I had prioritized my own emotional well-being over my family's demands and expectations. Whatever came next, I would face it, knowing I had finally stood up for myself. Wednesday morning arrived with a sense of disorientation. For years, this day had followed the same pattern. An early flight to Chicago, the tense drive from O'Hare to my parents' house, and the immediate immersion into holiday preparations under my mother's critical eye. Now I faced a day entirely my own, stretching before me with both freedom and uncertainty. My phone remained off. I wasn't ready yet to face the inevitable fallout from my decision. Instead, I called Natalie from my landline, which I kept primarily for emergencies. "Are you really okay with me joining your Thanksgiving?" I asked, suddenly unsure. "I don't want to impose on your plans." Her laugh came through the line, warm and reassuring. "Kennedy, I've been trying to get you to join our Friendsgiving for 3 years. You're not imposing. You're the guest of honor. Now get your butt over here by noon. We're going grocery shopping." Natalie lived in Cambridge, just across the river. Her apartment, shared with 2 other women, was always full of life and color, in stark contrast to my own minimalist space. When I arrived, she enveloped me in a hug that seemed to say everything words couldn't. So she said as she handed me a mug of hot chocolate, complete with many marshmallows, "We need to shop for tomorrow. Adriana is handling the turkey. May is on dessert duty, and we're responsible for sides. What's your specialty?" I thought about it. Despite years of helping prepare Thanksgiving meals, I had always followed my mother's exact instructions, never developing my own signature dishes. Then I remembered something else. My grandmother taught me how to make cornbread stuffing from scratch. I said, the memory warming me more than the hot chocolate. She added apples and sage to it. It was always my favorite part of Thanksgiving. "Then that's what you'll make, Natalie," declared. "The Kennedy special cornbread stuffing. Let's make a list." The afternoon transformed into an unexpected adventure. We visited 3 different stores to find all the ingredients, including a farmer's market for fresh herbs that filled the car with fragrant aromas. Natalie introduced me to the owner of a small bakery who sold us day-old cornbread at half price, perfect for stuffing. At each stop, Natalie introduced me to shopkeepers and regular customers she knew, incorporating me seamlessly into her world. By the time we returned to her apartment laden with groceries, we were greeted by Adriana, a pediatric nurse with a booming laugh, and May, a soft-spoken graphic designer whose quiet demeanor belied a wicked sense of humor. They welcomed me without question, as if I had always been part of their tradition. We spent the evening prepping food and drinking wine in their cozy kitchen. I learned that Adriana was estranged from her father following her parents' divorce. May's parents lived in Taiwan and couldn't understand why she didn't come home for Chinese New Year instead of American holidays. Natalie's family was in California, but she couldn't afford the flight home this year. None of them are having a normal Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving either, Natalie whispered to me as Adriana and May playfully argued about the proper amount of garlic in mashed potatoes. That's why we made our own tradition. Chosen family. The phrase chosen family resonated deeply as I chopped apples for my stuffing. I found myself sharing stories about my grandmother, how she would let me help in the kitchen when I was little while my mother shooed me away. How she taught me to knead dough and measure spices. How her kitchen had always felt like a safe haven. Later, Natalie's other friends arrived for pre-giving drinks. A diverse group, including Thomas, a literature professor, Zach and Ryan, a couple who ran a local coffee shop, Sophie, an environmental lawyer, and Louise, a physical therapist. Each person greeted me with genuine warmth, asking questions and actually listening to my answers, incorporating me into inside jokes and group stories. At one point, I excused myself to the bathroom, where I found myself suddenly overwhelmed with emotion. Tears came unexpectedly as the contrast between this acceptance and my family's rejection hit me full force. I allowed myself a moment of grief, wiping my eyes carefully to not smudge my makeup before returning to the group. Natalie caught my eye with a questioning look, and I gave her a small smile and nod to indicate I was okay. More than okay, actually. For the first time in years, I felt truly seen and appreciated. Just for being myself, not for what I could provide. Thanksgiving Day dawned. Bright and clear. I awoke on Natalie's sofa to the smell of coffee and the sound of Adriana singing along to music. In the kitchen. The apartment soon filled with delicious aromas as we all took our places in the meal preparation. I assembled my grandmother's cornbread stuffing with a sense of honoring her memory carefully, mixing the ingredients and adding her secret touch, a splash of apple cider. More friends arrived throughout the day, each bringing dishes and drinks. The apartment grew warm with bodies and laughter. Someone brought a card game that had us all howling with laughter. Another friend initiated an impromptu dance party in the living room, while the turkey finished cooking. When we finally gathered around the expanded dining table, creatively enlarged with card tables and mismatched chairs to accommodate 15 people, Natalie stood and raised her glass. "Before we eat, I want to propose a toast," she said. "To friends new and old who choose to be here together. Especially to Kennedy, who could have spent today feeling sorry for herself, but instead brought her grandmother's amazing stuffing recipe and her wonderful self to our table, to choosing joy and choosing each other." Everyone raised their glasses, looking at me with genuine smiles. For a moment, I couldn't speak past the lump in my throat. Then I found my voice. "To chosen family," I said, raising my own glass. "Thank you all for making space for me today." The meal was chaotic and perfect dishes. Past family-style conversations. Overlapping wine glasses continually refilled. My stuffing received enthusiastic praise with several people requesting the recipe. For dessert, May had created a fusion of traditional American pumpkin pie and Taiwanese flavors that was unlike anything I'd ever tasted. As evening settled in and people lounged in food comas around the apartment, I realized I had spent an entire day without checking my phone. Without worrying about my parents' approval, without feeling less than. For the first time in perhaps my entire life, I had experienced a holiday without the undercurrent of tension and judgment that had always accompanied family gatherings. Looking around at these people who had welcomed me without hesitation, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. This, I realized, was what holidays were supposed to feel like: safety, acceptance, genuine connection. The absence of my biological family still act like a bruise. But surrounding that pain was something new and precious. The warmth of belonging on my own terms. Friday morning, I thanked Natalie and her roommates for their hospitality and returned to my apartment. The holiday glow still surrounded me like a protective bubble, but I knew I couldn't avoid reality forever. Sitting cross-legged on my bed, I took a deep breath and turned on my phone. The device vibrated continuously for nearly 2 minutes as notifications flooded in. When it finally stopped, I stared at the screens. 66 missed calls, 43 text messages, 12 voicemails, and 28 email notifications. My stomach clenched, but I forced myself to start methodically reviewing the communications. The messages fell into distinct chronological phases, telling a story of their own. Phase 1 began Wednesday afternoon, shortly after I'd turned off my phone. These messages were primarily angry and accusatory. From Mom, Wednesday 2:14 p.m. What is this nonsense about canceling payments? Turn your phone on now. From James, Wednesday 2:40 p.m. What the sis mom is freaking out about bills. Stop being dramatic. From Dad, Wednesday 3:22 p.m. Kennedy, please call when you get this. We need to discuss this calmly. From Mom, Wednesday 4:05 p.m. This childish behavior is exactly why you weren't invited for Thanksgiving. Call me immediately. Phase 2 began early Thanksgiving morning with a shift toward panic as the reality of the situation apparently set in. From Dad, Thursday 7:18 a.m. The power company called. They said the payment was canceled. Please call me. From Mom, Thursday 9:42 a.m. The mortgage company left a message. What have you done? From James, Thursday 1137 a.m. The Wi-Fi is out and Mom can't stream her cooking show for the turkey recipe. Fix this now. From Dad, Thursday 1:15 p.m. Kennedy, please. Your mother is very upset. The credit card was declined at the grocery store for last-minute items. We have family coming in an hour. Phase 3 started Thanksgiving evening and continued through the night, moving from panic to desperation. From James, Thursday 7:22 p.m. Dinner was a disaster. Mom couldn't stop crying. Are you happy now? From Dad, Thursday 8:40 p.m. I understand you're hurt, but this affects all of us. Please call so we can work something out. From Mom, Thursday 9:13 p.m. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us by ruining Thanksgiving. From Dad, Thursday 1145 p.m. The mortgage payment is due in 3 days. We don't have the money. Please. Kennedy, we could lose the house. The voicemails told a similar story, escalating from irritation to desperation. The most revealing was from my father left at midnight on Thanksgiving. Kennedy, it's Dad. I'm calling from the garage so your mother doesn't hear. I understand why you're doing this. I really do. But we're not prepared for this. All our accounts are nearly empty. James hasn't been contributing anything even though he tells your mother he pays for groceries. The truth is we've become completely dependent on you and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for a lot of things. Please call me back. We need to figure something out before we lose everything. The emails were mostly automated notifications from various bill payment services confirming the cancellation of Automatic payments mixed with increasingly desperate messages from my parents. As I scrolled through everything, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. Part of me felt vindicated seeing tangible evidence that my financial support had been not just helpful but essential. Another part felt guilty for causing such chaos. Especially for my father. But mostly, I felt resolve. This confrontation had been necessary, even if the timing was difficult. My phone rang in my hand. Startling me. Dad's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. Kennedy, thank God, his voice came through, sounding exhausted. We've been trying to reach you for days. In the background, I could hear multiple voices arguing loudly. Then my mother's voice cut through, shrill and demanding. Is that her? Let me talk to her. There was a shuffling sound, and suddenly my mother was on the line, her voice tight with fury. How dare you do this to us? On Thanksgiving of all days. Do you have any idea what you've put us through? The embarrassment of having my credit card declined in front of the entire grocery store. Having to tell everyone the internet was down because of technical problems. Your Aunt Kathy had to stream the football game on her phone data because the cable was cut off. Her priorities were so misaligned that I almost laughed. While they faced potential foreclosure, she was most concerned about missing football and looking bad in front of relatives. You banned me from Thanksgiving and called me an idiot, I replied, keeping my voice calm and even. I simply respected your wish for distance by removing myself from your financial affairs as well. That was different, she sputtered. That was just about dinner, not about all this. You know, we depend on you for these things. The admission was telling. In her mind, it was perfectly acceptable to reject me emotionally while expecting me to maintain financial support. The disconnect was staggering. More shuffling sounds came through the phone and my father's voice returned. Kennedy, please, he said, his voice lower. Your brother is here with your mother and they're both very upset. But I need to speak with you privately. Can I come to Boston tomorrow? Just me. The request surprised me. In all my adult years, my father had never visited me alone in Boston. He came only for obligatory events like my college graduation or when accompanying my mother. Yes, I said after a moment. We should talk face to face. Text me when you have flight details. After ending the call, I sat in silence processing. The fallout was messy and painful as I'd anticipated. But beneath the chaos, something important had happened. For the first time, my parents were facing the reality of their financial situation and my role in maintaining their lifestyle. My phone continued to buzz with texts from James, alternatively begging and accusing. I silenced it and put it aside. Tomorrow would bring a difficult conversation with my father. But today, I needed to center myself and prepare. I had taken a stand, and now I needed the strength to maintain boundaries even in the face of guilt and emotional manipulation. I spent the day practicing self-care, something my therapist had been encouraging for years, but I rarely prioritized. I took a long walk along the Charles River, breathing in the crisp November air. I treated myself to lunch at a cafe I'd always wanted to try. I called Natalie to thank her again for Thanksgiving and briefly update her on the situation. Her unwavering support bolstered my resolve. By evening, my father had texted his flight information. He would arrive at 10:00 in the morning. As I prepared for bed, I felt a strange sense of calm. Tomorrow would bring confrontation, but also Perhaps the first honest conversation with my father in years. Whatever happened, I had taken the first step toward changing a destructive pattern that had dominated my adult life. That alone was something to be proud of. Saturday morning, I cleaned my apartment meticulously, a nervous habit from childhood when I'd tidy my room before difficult conversations with my parents. I brewed coffee, arranged some pastries from the bakery downstairs, and waited. At precisely 10:15, my doorbell rang. The man who stood in my hallway barely resembled the father I knew. Dad had always been fastidious about his appearance, wearing pressed khakis and polo shirts, even on weekends. This man wore wrinkled jeans and an old sweatshirt. His face was haggard with several days of gray stubble and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "Senety," he said simply, his voice rough. I stepped back to let him in, noting how his shoulders slumped as he passed me. In my living room, he seemed unsure where to sit until I gestured to the couch. "Coffee?" I offered, already moving toward the kitchen. "Please," he replied, looking around my apartment as if seeing it for the first time, though he'd visited several times before. I returned with 2 mugs and sat in the armchair across from him, maintaining physical distance intentionally. For several moments, we sipped in silence. "Your place looks nice," he finally said. "Very you." The comment surprised me. I couldn't remember the last time he had noticed or commented on anything about my personal space or choices. "Thank you," I replied. "I've lived here for 4 years," he nodded slowly, then set his mug down with a sigh. "I owe you an apology, Kennedy." "Many apologies, actually." The directness was unprecedented. My father had always communicated through hints and suggestions, never confrontation or clear statements. "I'm listening," I said, careful to keep my tone neutral. He rubbed his face with both hands. "This situation more complicated than you know. But first, I want to say I'm sorry for not standing up to your mother about Thanksgiving. I should have insisted you be included. I was a coward." The admission hung in the air between us. I nodded but remained silent, waiting. "Your mother. She's always been jealous of you," he continued, staring into his coffee. "Of your intelligence, your drive, your success. She'll never admit I had joined a book club and a weekend hiking group, gradually building a community that valued me for who I was rather than what I could provide. Professionally, I had channeled my energy into work, earning recognition for bringing in several significant new clients. I had even begun mentoring a new financial advisor, finding unexpected satisfaction in guiding someone else's professional development. Most importantly, I had started to recognize and challenge the deeply ingrained belief that I needed to earn love through achievement or financial support. This realization was uncomfortable but necessary for my growth. "It's strange," I told Andrea. For so long, I measured my worth by how much I could help my family financially. Stepping back from that role has forced me to reconsider who I am without it. "That's powerful insight," Andrea noted. "Many people never reach that level of self-awareness. How are you defining your worth now?" I smiled slightly. "I'm still working on that, but I'm starting to understand that being valued only for what you can provide isn't the same as being loved for who you are. I deserve the second kind of love, not just the first." The weeks following Thanksgiving had brought other unexpected developments. Several extended family members, including my Aunt Patricia and cousins, had reached out independently after learning what had happened. They expressed support and shared their own experiences with my mother's difficult behavior, validating feelings I had suppressed for years. My Aunt Patricia even revealed that she had distanced herself from holiday gatherings in recent years because of my mother's increasingly controlling and critical behavior, not because of work conflicts, as she had claimed. This revelation helped me understand that the dysfunction I experienced wasn't imagined or exaggerated. As Christmas approached, I maintained firm boundaries while remaining open to positive changes in family dynamics. I had shipped modest, thoughtful gifts to my parents and brother, careful not to slip back into the pattern of trying to buy affection or approval for myself. I had planned a pre-Christmas celebration with my new friends, ensuring that, regardless of how the family visit went, I would have experienced genuine holiday warmth. Are you still having panic attacks when you think about family interactions? Andrea asked, referring to a symptom I had experienced frequently before setting boundaries. I shook my head. No, not since implementing these changes. I still feel anxiety sometimes, but it's manageable. I use the breathing techniques you taught me, and I remind myself that I can leave any situation that becomes unhealthy. Having that escape plan helps me feel more in control. As our session wound down, Andrea set aside her notepad and leaned forward slightly. Kennedy, when you first came to me 2 years ago, you described yourself as trapped in a family system that caused you significant distress, but that you couldn't imagine changing. Look how far you've come since then. Her words resonated deeply. The journey had been painful and was far from complete, but I had indeed taken crucial steps toward a healthier life. I had discovered strength I didn't know I possessed and capacity for change I hadn't believed possible. The holidays that year were neither perfect nor terrible, but somewhere in between, as real life often is. Christmas Day with my family included moments of tension but also genuine connection, particularly with my father. My mother made efforts, albeit imperfect ones, to curb her criticism, and James attended sober, participating in his first family gathering without the shadow of secrets hanging over him. By spring, a new pattern had emerged in our family. My parents had sold the house and moved to a smaller town home they could afford on their own. I provided occasional financial advice, but no direct support. James continued his recovery program with ups and downs, but demonstrated more accountability than ever before. Most significantly, I had found a new sense of peace. The compulsive need to earn my mother's approval had diminished, replaced by a growing appreciation for the authentic connections in my life. While the relationship with my family remained complicated, it no longer dominated my emotional landscape or defined my sense of self-worth. 1 year after that fateful text message banning me from Thanksgiving, I hosted my own gathering in my apartment, inviting Natalie, her roommates, my new friends, and yes, even my parents, who accepted with a surprising lack of drama. The meal wasn't perfect. The conversation occasionally awkward, but underneath ran a current of something new: respect. As I look back now on that painful text message that changed everything, I realize that what seemed like rejection actually opened the door to liberation. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do, both for ourselves and others, is to stop participating in unhealthy dynamics, even when that means walking away from people we care about. In my case, that temporary distance created space for new patterns to emerge and healthier relationships to develop. If you're struggling with similar family dynamics, remember that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for genuine relationships to flourish. You deserve respect, appreciation, and love. That doesn't come with conditions. Or costs. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most important growth. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family? How did it change your relationships? Let me know in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content about navigating complicated family dynamics. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, prioritizing your emotional health isn't selfish, it's essential. Wishing you strength and peace on your own path to healthier relationships.